We're following breaking news into CNN. The Federal Reserve cutting interest rates by a quarter point, marking the second cut of the year. It comes as Democrats grapple with this week's stunning election losses, with millions of voters citing the economy as their top concern. Let's discuss with pollster and communication strategist Frank Luntz. Frank, great to be with you as always. The Wednesday morning headline: voters hand Republicans a mandate. Do you think that this outcome was inevitable, given the truncated amount of time that Kamala Harris had to run a campaign, along with the economic headwinds, or was there more that she could have done in those 100-ish days to get elected?
There absolutely is more, and this is significant because in the end, they're trying to undercut Trump's victory, which was significant. It wasn't a mandate because it's still only a 3 or 4% victory, but it was significant. It was meaningful and measurable. First, she could have told people exactly what she wanted to do in the first hour, the first day, the first week, the first month. Second is that she could have explained much better why her positions have changed. The public doesn't like flip-flopping, but they do appreciate when you learn something, when you're not the same person now that you were 5, 10, or 20 years ago. And third, when she was positive, that whole first half of her campaign, right up to the debate, when she was joyful and energetic, enthusiastic in the crowds, and she talked about what she wanted to achieve, that was significant. And you saw it in the polling numbers, and you could feel the energy. But when she turned against Trump and attempted to redefine him, I heard the phrase from the campaign that they wanted to make sure no American had Trump amnesia. Well, guess what? We know everything there is to know about Donald Trump, good and bad. We know who he is, we know what he's about, we know where he stands. We did not know her. I think that when all is said and done, and the tears have been shed and the crying ends, that she will look at her campaign as a horribly missed opportunity to have a genuine conversation with the American people. That's why she lost.
Frank, what about the fact that Donald Trump, for the first time that he's run, is on track to win the popular vote? I mean, you just said that a lot of Americans, that Americans know everything there is to know about Donald Trump. How is that the case, given that he's more popular than ever, and yet he uses rhetoric that is offensive?
For some people, what's offensive to other people, and I'm not a supporter of his rhetoric, but for some people, what's offensive for other people is telling it straight. And I do have a problem with the language that he used. I think it's not appropriate. I would like our president to be a role model in addition to a political and economic leader, and obviously the person who leads the army. I think that what a president says and what a president does absolutely matters, and that we should be trying to aspire to something greater. But that said, he was explicit. He focused on the things that mattered to him, particularly on immigration. And in the end, the public compared his immigration record and his proposals with Vice President Harris's record and her proposals, and they found Trump better than Harris. Make no mistake, if you asked a person who they liked better as a person, Vice President Harris won that comparison. But if you asked people who could better handle affordability, because it's really not the economy, it's about prices and costs, affordability and immigration, which is more about safety and security, they, by 10 points or more, gave that edge to Donald Trump. And once again, that's the reason why he won.
Frank, there's a lot of finger pointing within the Democratic Party. Moderates are blaming progressives. Progressives are blaming moderates. What do you think the path forward is for the Democratic Party?
So I'm eager to bring these focus groups, and you all have used them frequently, because we talk to these voter groups, and Vice President Harris did worse among men, particularly middle-aged men, particularly men who had voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016 and Joe Biden in 2020. And they felt like the Democratic Party had left them. This is no embrace, no bear hug of either Trump or the Republican Party. But they felt like Vice President Harris only cared about young women. And you saw it in the ads, you saw it in the rallies, you saw it in all the sound bites and the clips visually, that clearly she wanted to be a role model, and that's perfectly appropriate. And in fact, it's courageous to give young women a role model, but you don't do it at the expense of men who have been voting Democrat, working hard, playing by the rules, paying their taxes. And there are too many of these men who abandoned the Democrats in 2024. And frankly, they're going to have to focus on how you can still appeal to women, but not reject men, or they will not be the majority party again.
Frank Luntz, always appreciate your analysis. Thanks so much for joining us.